My name is Trey Mangum, and this is Shot on Act's Opening Act. Each week, we sit down with some of your favorite Black creatives in Hollywood to discuss how they made it in the entertainment industry. This week, we're speaking to Ashley Blaine Featherson-Jenkins, most known for her role as Joelle on Netflix's Dear White People. The fourth and final season of Dear White People will be streaming soon on Netflix. We asked Ashley about her very first on-screen role and how that role still impacts her career to this day.
Maybe it was my first on-screen role. So, first on-screen while living in Los Angeles. I had my first co-star I booked on a Raven-Symoné show called State of Georgia.
Yeah, I remember that.
You do? You remember it? Well,
yeah. I didn't know the name, but I knew that she had a show that was on Freeform at one point.
She had it, which was ABC Family at the time.
Yeah.
She had a show called State of Georgia, and I booked my first co-star on. I booked it around my birthday in 2010. It didn't air until 2011. So it was like a birthday gift. I had been living in Los Angeles only since that February, and so it was like a big deal. You know, I was able to get my SAG card. You know, it just was big. But what I would take away from that experience is, you just never know who's watching. I think that's the biggest. You never know. There's still to this day people who were a part of the casting process for that remember me from all. I mean, I feel like I'm a completely different person, an actor and all of those things now. Yeah. But the truth is, like, they remember me for my work ethic. They remember me for, the type of energy that I even brought to set that day. You know, I think sometimes actors think you go into these sets, you're not a series regular, or you're just coming in and you're doing to you feels like a small job, but you never know who's watching. You never know who you might impact. You never know whose day you might make. You never know what other actor is looking at you, hoping that they can be doing what you're doing, hopefully one day, because I think about there were actors who were extras that day and didn't have a line, but looked at me and said, wow, she has a line. That's amazing. Maybe I can get a line next time. I just always remember, like, just never forget who's watching, and because of that, always do your best and be your best.
Yeah. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't really, especially when you're starting out early, you think about when you book that, I guess, that guest star, that recurring, or that series regular, but like even when you're the person who just has the few lines in this episode, how many people are looking like, wow, that could be me, like next to the next line. So
it happens.
I think that's like perfect.
It can happen so fast. It can happen.
Mm-hmm.
It was like all I wanted in my life was to really be an actor. And then one day I was able to make my dreams come true. It happened. It seemed like it happened fast. I mean, in reality, it didn't.
Yeah.
But my point is, when the opportunity came, it was like, oh, it's here. I have to be ready. The call came. Like, I got to be ready.
And I want to go ahead because I want to spend a lot of time talking about Dear White People because it's such an iconic show. It's really one of the first, I guess, big, series on Netflix when Netflix really dove into originals that people really even remember. And I want to ask you, first of all, because you're one of the few actors that had a role in the movie and you also got to, be in this series, how does it feel to go from this indie film that premiered at Sundance? I even remember, like, low-key, I think it was like 2014. I went to UNC Chapel Hill, and I was the president of our Black student movement. And I remember screening the film, like it was after it came out, like on demand or whatever. I remember watching it, and that was during the height of, I think, the Michael Brown verdict, or Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin. One of the verdicts that came, that was that 2014, 2015 were those crucial years in Black Lives Matter. I remember watching it, and I felt like that was kind of a turning point as to how we viewed race on campus, especially being at a PWI, but just in general, going from that film being this indie film, Sundance, to a Netflix series, into its fourth season now, very, very well known, very lucrative. How does it feel to be in this moment, in this culminating moment, I guess?
It feels like it's all God. It really does. I mean, I wish I had something more flowery, I guess. But to me, that's the beauty of it. You know, it's that this was all a part of the plan. You know, and I just feel so blessed that Justin has had me along for the ride since the beginning. You know, I remember getting that call and being like, hey, can you get to Minneapolis like tomorrow? And me being like, no, I can't afford it. And they were like, Lena and Justin were like, we'll buy you a ticket. I was like, thanks. Like literally, I couldn't even afford to go at the time. I was stressed. Like, this could be big for me. I really want to. And not only was I excited because it was going to be my first feature, but I was excited to work with my friends. So when the opportunity came, I was like, this is going to be so cool. We'll get to be in Minneapolis shooting this movie for a couple of weeks. And again, when the call came, I was like, this is happening. But then I was like, I can't even afford to go. I couldn't even afford to buy a plane ticket to go. But again, that just goes to the power of friendships and destiny advocates, because they were like, pull up, we got you. Didn't have a place to stay. They were like, you know, Lena allowed 3 of us to stay in her hotel room she had. You know, it just was it was collaborative in a way that makes where all of our lives are now, and with us being in the 4th season of this show, all the more beautiful, because I remember where we started. You know, we were all trying to figure out how to file unemployment and all sorts of things after the movie. This is not even, this is before and after, you know, and that's real. And I want people to know that, because it wasn't really about the money. It was about the art. And if you chase the art, then the money will follow, and you'll get to, you know, support yourselves and support your family and do wonderful, beautiful, nice things for yourself and for others. But it has to be about the art first. If it's about the money first, then you're going to burn out, and you're never going to make it, and you're never going to inspire anybody. And, you know, that was never what I wanted for myself or for anybody else in my orbit. So again, to be in this moment feels godly. It just feels, it feels like God has an amazing plan for my life, and that this has been such a huge part of it. And I'm so excited to see, one, how this season is received, but also where God's taking me next.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably bittersweet, because it feels like, you know, one journey is coming to a close, but you feel like you're on the cusp of like something that's new, and I feel like that's all exciting at the same time.
My stomach just dropped when you said it. I was like, yeah, I mean, because that's the weird thing about acting and the journey. It's kind of like, it's so arduous and it's so tough that, you know, I remember my first agent, her name was Galit Finkelstein. I'll never forget her. So I done a random, like, at the time you could do mass mailings, you know, with your headshot and your resume. And I sent to like 50-something agents and managers. And actually, this is in 2010. And I had nothing on my resume but Howard and theater. Hey, who wants me? Everyone was like, no. But I actually got a pretty good response. I heard back from like 6 or 7 agents and managers, which I thought at the time was pretty good. But anyway, this particular agent, I remember I met with her, and she was like, Ashley, I think you're great. You know, I think that you're talented. I think you have a great background. I think that you've really studied the craft. She was like, but I want to tell you something. This is going to be an uphill battle. And at the time, I was 22, didn't really care what she was talking about. I was just like, so where do I sign? Are you going to be my agent? What's going on? But I've always remembered it, because the truth is, she's right. It's when you're walking uphill, it's tiring. You have to stop. You have to get water. You have to take a break. You got to massage your legs. You got to look out at the scenery for a little bit. You got to think. You got to pray. There's a lot of things that happen when you're going uphill.
Yeah.
And so where I'm at in my journey now, or where I think what happens with actors oftentimes, that you're trucking uphill, you're trucking, then you book something and you land, and that's when you break, and you can, you know, you're not gasping for air. You're not, you know, perspiring everywhere. You can breathe, you're hydrated, and you can kind of rest and enjoy. But then when said project ends, the trek then begins again too. And I think that
for me, that's just where I'm at. Since we've been done with the show, I've been gearing up for my next trek. And I've been trekking and trekking and trekking and trekking again, hoping to find another beautiful place to land and enjoy and rest, before the next trek. But for me, I just want to encourage artists that, like, that's the goal. The goal is to find somewhere that you can rest and that you can enjoy and that you can, relish and revel in your craft in a way that doesn't feel arduous. But the truth is, the journey is just hard, and that's what makes the art so good. If it were easy, then it wouldn't make for a good story. I wouldn't have anything good and juicy to put into my characters. So now that I'm kind of on the other side of it, again, I just feel really grateful for the 5 years that I've had to rest and enjoy and revel in such an amazing show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to ask, what is the experience like working with your friends? Because I know you and Justin have collaborated a lot of times. You've worked with Lena a lot of times. And I know how, there are a lot of Dear White People cast members in Bad Hair. Lena utilizes similar actors for Boomerang and 20s and all of her projects. Yeah. So how would you describe your the collaborative process between you and Justin, and like what keeps it going, especially like working closely in your professional life with people who you also share personal ties to as well?
It's beautiful. Like, honestly, like that's what you want. You want to be able, with Joelle, Justin called me and said, "Hey, I have a part. Do you want to come do it?" Like it wasn't and look, we have Joelle, now, we have Joelle Brooks, this amazing character, but that was because a friend called and said, "I want you for this. I wrote this with you in mind." You read the character description and it's me personified. So it's so beautiful when you're an artist to have close friends that work in the other spaces that allow you to do what you want to do. And if anything, it has just made us closer. Justin is he's such a friend. He's such an amazing man. He's such an amazing, amazing artist. Like I get chills when I think about where Justin's going to go. I mean, sometimes I just look at him and I'm like, Justin, your brain is just not like everybody else's. And he's like, I know. But he's so wonderful. And he's so, he's been so generous to me. Generous is just the word. I can't think of another word. He just has given me so much, and I don't mean so much like roles and all those types of, I mean like just love and friendship and belief. He believes in me. And that's so important when you're in an industry where you get so many no's and people who don't get it, or people who are confused, or people who are, on the fence, or whatever it may be. To have someone who's so resolute in how they feel about me and my talent and my future is a gift. It's really, really a gift. So I feel really, really blessed and grateful to have so many friends that I get to work with and enjoy. And also it's just fun to enjoy their work. I love being on set with Justin because I like watching him work. I love being on set with Courtney and Jamar and Marquis and Logan and, all of the people I work with, because I'm truly fans of theirs. So it's really just, I get to go to work and play with my friends all the time. Like, who doesn't want to do that?
That should be everyone's goal. To have an experience like that. This week's Black Entertainment Trivia Fact. Ashley Blaine Featherson-Jenkins was one of the original stars of Dear White People, the film. Which current series star also starred in the original film version of Dear White People? Was it Logan Browning, Brandon Bell, Antoinette Robertson, or Deron Horton? Find out the answer next week on shadowandact.com. I want to talk a lot about Joelle because, Joelle is such an iconic, and I don't even mean to say that lightly, like literally an iconic character. And I feel like the character's been such a beacon of representation because we don't, especially in teen-oriented, college-oriented comedies and drama series, you really do not get to see dark-skinned women on screen. So like I'm sure you see all the time on the Strong Black Lead social media accounts where people
I love Strong Black Lead so much. I'm obsessed. I'm so happy that it exists. It's so good.
Yeah, like I find myself scrolling Instagram. I'm just going through it. I feel like every post I'm just like double tap, double tap, double tap.
So important. I just love it.
But fans, definitely the character resonates with a lot of fans, and I wanted to see how that feels to you as an actress to see so many people who have, in the history of cinema period, don't get to see themselves reflected a lot on screen. What does that mean to you? And just how has it been shaping the character over these years? I wanted to see if is there any parts of you that exist in Joelle as we've seen the character evolve after all these years?
Yeah, I mean, when you ask what it means to me, it means everything to me. I always say that, my career, I always wanted to feel like a dedication and a love letter to Black women. That's the goal, so to know that, playing Joelle has allowed me to do that purposefully has been just one of my life's greatest blessings. And I mean, just when young women, and not even just Black women, but women of color reach out to me and say, I never saw myself on screen until I saw Joelle, or I so appreciate seeing a Black woman who's so fully realized and smart and beautiful and goal oriented and fun and funny and emotional and just so layered. Mm-hmm. Because I think that's the thing. I think for so long we were so used to seeing Black women as being portrayed the same on screen. And so many of us were watching this content saying, but that's not me, or that's not my mom, or that's not my sister, or that's not my aunt, whatever it may be. So I to be on a show like Dear White People, where I feel like so many Black women and women of color can see themselves through the characters on the show, is really just a testament to Justin and our writers and our producers and Netflix and Lionsgate for really making that a priority. And I mean, as far as, pieces of me being in Joelle, I mean, if as an actor, there's not a piece of you in every character you play, then you did something wrong, like I think that there's so much of me in Joelle, and now there's so much of Joelle and me, Ashley, like these characters, I think we so often talk about how much of an indelible mark the actors leave on the characters, but the characters leave indelible marks on the actors as well. They have to, Joelle and I have been like this for 5 years. Well, really since 2013, when her name was Joelle, was Curls. She didn't have a name yet. This was a natural haired girl with the name Curls. So yeah, there's so, what the things I would say that Joelle and I have the most in common is that we're both, Joelle's a Virgo and I'm a Sagittarius, but something that Virgos and Sagittarius is common is that we're both very, very, very goal oriented, very hard workers, very much so hard workers, big personalities. Beyonce's a Virgo. I decided that Joelle has the same birthday as Beyonce. I just made that. I said she was a Virgo. I was like, her birthday September 5th, September 4th. It's fine. I just decided. So yeah, I think that those are the things that they most have in common. And also, friendship is really important to them both. And, for me, if anybody knows me, friendship, sisterhood is a huge part of my life and something I like to talk about a lot because it's saved my life in a lot of ways. It's shaped my life in beautiful ways. And, I feel like in a lot of ways, Joelle she's kind of the glue for a lot of the friends on the show. And she fights for them and they love her for it. And I think that that's just so beautiful to see on screen.
Yeah. And what's it been like to, I guess, witness societal change that's changing while the show has been on the air? Because like I said, I remember back in 2013, 2014, when it first came out, kind of like the stuff that was going on in America that kind of led to Trump. Then the show being on during that era. And then now coming at a time now we're coming out of the pandemic. Well, we're trying to come out of the pandemic and also, yes, not at all, trying our best to come out of it. but having to deal with that pandemic and also the the sort of dual pandemics we had last year with the violence against Black people and all that went on then. So how has it been like to kind of see the show kind of run parallel to some of the stuff that we witness in current events?
It's honestly, it's kind of eerie that it happens like that. It does that every season, oddly. Even if it doesn't matter if the show's been written months before or shot years, whatever, it doesn't matter. Somehow it always aligns. But I think that's just the universe, reminding us that Dear White People is an important show. It's important. It's always going to be relevant. It's always going to align with, current events. Particularly this season, you'll see that there's so many things that are just so current. And this, this season was written, I want to say sometime in 2019, and we didn't shoot it. We were supposed to shoot in April of 2020. We didn't even end up shooting it until October of 2020, and we shot from October to February of 2021. So the fact that it still resonates so closely to everything that's going on right now is just proof that we're on the right page. We're doing the right thing. We have our finger on the pulse of everything that's going on. And that I think our show, although this is a final season, it's a show that will always have relevancy. It's like a different world. You can watch a different world now and 50 years from now. It's always going to pull at your heartstrings. You're always gonna feel that what they're doing on that show still resonates with the current times. And it's just so exciting to be on a show like that, because that means that you did something right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, people are, whether it's, I don't know how Netflix is going to evolve over the next 20, 30 years, but I feel like whatever that looks like, people are going to turn it on and they're going to look at this and be like, wow. And it's interesting to think about how we're kind of living in the times where pop culture is being shaped, because our generation has these these obsessive like tendencies with the 80s and the 90s and now the 2000s, but looking back years down the road and thinking like what people that like when we get like 50, 60, and like what kids are going to look back and like, are they going to like look at these shows that came on now and that's going to be like their different world? It's kind of eerie, like you said, eerie. You described something else as eerie. That's kind of eerie too, thinking about how we actually shape the culture that way. Like people are gonna look back and be like, "Oh, this is how I want my college experience to be like." Even though I'm 30 years removed from it, I can still look at this and see what I want myself to look like. What I know, how I want to shape my experience.
It's true.
It's true. And ultimately, what do you hope people take away? Not only from the final season of the show, because it's has this musical element, so I think that adds a lot more. It adds lots of different things to the season. But not only from this season, but the series overall. What do you hope people ultimately take away from Dear White People?
I ultimately hope that people take away that Black people are amazing. Simply, I hope that anybody who watches the show realizes that we are just amazing people. We have endured so much, yet still we rise. We are so talented. We are so smart. We are so beautiful. We are so loving and just all of these things, strong. I hope that is what anybody who watches our show takes away, because it's important. We don't have a lot. We have more of that type of imagery and representation now than we ever had, but it's still not enough. And so I am just so happy that I'm on a show and playing a character where that's all we exude, and that will be a mainstay in the culture, and that our children and their children will know about this show and know about the excellence that we emanated. And also, I just hope that people take away from it that, Black people are not monolithic. We're so layered. We're so interesting. We're so vast. Don't put us in a box. No box can contain us. that's what I want people to take away.
Yeah. And as we close this chapter on Dear White People, what do you hope is in store for you? What are some things that you hope to, is there anything you're hoping, check off, some projects you'd love to do? So you want to get into more things behind the scenes? Like, what does the next steps look like for you?
I am one of those actors who loves television. I'm a TV girl. I love film. I love performing, but my dream was never really to be a movie star. It was always to be a TV star. There's something about TV that something about being in people's homes every week, about, with Dear White People, it's not necessarily every week. We just all at once. But there is something beautiful about you all having been able to see me grow over seasons. And, even I it gets me emotional sometimes. I look at Joelle in season 1, episode 1, and I look at Joelle in season 4, episode 10, and I'm just like, wow. And I played it, but even it blows me away. Like, the girl who's sitting in that radio station talking to her friend on the couch eating chicken nuggets to who she ends up at the end of season 4, which I will not spoil, is just beautiful. And so I'm really excited to find a new TV home. I'm excited to make magic with new people and a different network or the same network or whatever it may be. But just to start that beautiful process again of starting with this character at day 1 and seeing where they end up on, the final day of whatever the end of their day is for said show. So I'm just really excited about that. I have a ton of things I want to produce. Podcast too. I want to direct. I want to continue to do public speaking and just, for me, inspiring young Black women to live their dreams unapologetically is always just a huge part of my purpose and what I really believe in. So whether I do that directly through my work and the characters I play, or traveling around the country speaking to young women and college students and all of those things, podcasts, whatever it may be, I want to continue to do that work because it makes the work that I'm doing on this side all the more meaningful.
Yeah. Well, I'm already claiming it right now.
Thank you.
We're gonna see the deadline article. We're gonna say series regular. We're gonna say lead. Yes, we're already gonna say that. And because I feel you on that because it's just something about TV. It's something about TV.
There is
the journey.
It's magical.
And even maybe this is just me being old school, but even just like. I love streaming, but like just being on like that network show and like having that it's just something about that you just can't really replicate that experience. So like that's already going to be in the cards for you. We're already claiming that now.
I'm excited. I feel it too.
We talked to Ashley Blaine Featherson-Jenkins about all things Dear White People, what's next for her, and so much more. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Opening Act featuring Ashley Blaine Featherson-Jenkins. Be sure to give us a 5-star rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. You can watch this interview in full and catch exclusive content on LynchTable.com. All you have to do is create an account and you'll see tons of Shadow and Act content, such as Reel It Back and Shadow and Act Live. Until next time.